Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican, running for your mayor of Abbotsford. And the first thing we're going to do is get rid of the Abbotsford private police on the corruption. So let me explain and make it very clear to you. Henry Braun, the mayor of Abbotsford, went in with his son and his establishment to take Abbotsford over and look at the official community plan, rush jobs, and block Abbotsford taxpayers and get what he wanted with his friends. But he used the Abbotsford police to threaten and to cover up anybody who was coming forward. So I want to explain something to you, ladies and gentlemen. On the 911 call that I released to the social media, that you can hear the Abbotsford police failed to come out and check on my well-being or failed to come out and charge Henry Braun. That means Henry ordered Mike Sir and paid the Abbotsford police off to cover it because I need to finish my term to load Ross Siemens. I'm down here at Sage, Ron Funk of Diverse. Ron Funk is Henry's partner and the CEO. They changed the zoning from 200 to 400. When this property was scheduled with the first developer, Henry's son was the economic development officer in the city, and Henry had him, his dad, do all my dirty work. Henry was controlling the city bureaucrats and muscling them to rush the jobs and things through. When Henry was involved in the scandal of our houses in the hit and run, he had to leave. He knew that I would uproot Ross Siemens' term to load Manji Soi or Troy Gasper or myself. He couldn't have that. Too much money was at stake for Mr. Billionaire and Ron Funk and Henry's friends on all the jobs. Henry used the Abbotsford police, which I documented day in and day out thanks to the RCMP, to block me. He also said, when I made it clear that Henry told Tyler Olson way back when he was scandaling Bruce Bam and Mogill and Eric Nivel, this used to be the Abbotsford newspaper. He said, you write one thing about me, I'll put you on your belly and bankrupt you. So let me show you what Darren Brown showed me when Henry said that. I'll pull the city advertising I give to the newspaper, but I brought on board. I'll get Ross Siemens to pull his ad out of the Abbotsford newspaper. I'll get handlers and everybody I know, and you're broke and you're on your belly. That's Darren Brown showed me that. So when Ron Funk was cheating here in Abbotsford, Henry needed Ross Siemens loaded. It is wrong for a developer to put the candidate and the mayor's candidate on his property because he's now helping that person get that position, and you have to pay back over the general community. Ross knew that I knew that, but Henry assured him that he would take all the precautions and I could control you and it'll never get out. You can see them. They got a wall around Ross Siemens. Vicky Hopes won't write a one article that Ross Siemens took his gas station down and took it to Mission and put it in the aquifer rather than dispose of it at property. That means Henry now needs Ross, or I'll tell the fisheries and you'll get talked and I'll take over your assets. Ron Funk of Diverse has to be paid back for changing the zoning and helping Ross Siemens get in. How? What? Let me tell you what Ron Funk did. When Henry Brown knew that Gladys Avenue had the homeless all down Gladys Avenue for years and years and years, you need a court order to move them, and the developer will never get that over the community or in the court. Henry convinced Ross Siemens, and Ron Funk did. You owe me, you little brat, you owe me. Here's what he did. He hauled all the rocks on taxpayers' dollars. Your taxes went up for their dirty deal. Load all the rocks, we'll say we're cleaning up the homeless, but in actuality, we'll deflect it. We'll make it look like the homeless, but them rocks on your tax dollars are to benefit Ron Funk to get the services to it because the millionaire didn't want to pay for it. Other developers are outraged. They have to go on the hooks to bring the services and everything. This is why the Abbotsford police didn't go after them dump trucks coming in and out. This is why bylaw. All of them were involved in it. This is why when Dave Lowens was called by these neighbors, he didn't come out because he was up Henry's backside. This is why you do not see Mayor Ross Siemens, who's supposed to be neutral to the parties that are elected, working with the local candidates in MLAs. You see him all by himself and Henry babying him. But to fraud Abbotsford taxpayers in thousands of dollars for this illegal criminal act, and then to threaten residents. I knew when I stood forward to mention on the world stage, this would topple and bring the RCMP in, because it has to have the Abbotsford police. So I want to make something clear, ladies and gentlemen. Remember when the Abbotsford police secretary stole $200,000, the woman? She was brought before the courts and she was ordered to pay it back because it was fraud out of Abbotsford taxpayers. She took the money to do upgrades on her apartment. But when the women took it, she was scandaled. But when these filthy, disease-ridden men, garbage men, in the uniform, we're in the uniform, we're going after gangs, and fentanyl, remember that. And we need a new police building. Help cover this fraud. Then help cover Henry's hit and run. And knew that money, that thousands of dollars out of taxpayers' dollars to line Gladys Avenue with rocks, make it look like we're cleaning the homeless up, but instead to help the services come here. Wrong. That money's got to all be compensated back to Abbotsford taxpayers. That is why I told you Ross Seaman had to pay back. And he had to pay back big time. This is illegal criminal organization and it led to threats. This was no police department. It was a bunch of losing, filthy men that went in and said under uniform, I could get a good job if I listened to the mob boss, Henry Braun. This is why they protect Henry. This is why Vicky Hopes does not make one scandal against Ross Siemens. She scandals Ross on them homeless, them rocks, and anything he did. Ross pulls his ad out of the Abbotsford newspaper. The Abbotsford newspaper loses all its advertising that Henry and Ross and they're tied to. And what happens? Vicky Hopes doesn't have a job no more. And we are paying Police Chief Watts and his investigators thousands of dollars on your tax dollars to help his laverick friends. That is fraud. The women of Abbotsford in the city and in the police department are outraged because the woman that stole from the police department, she had to go to court. But these filthy men that stole were tied to politicians. It has to go back to Abbotsford. This is theft. Under my mayorship, it will all be seized and given back to the city taxpayers on Ron Funk. The problem is Ron Funk was tied to elite, big politicians and in the Abbotsford that cleaned it with the Abbotsford police. Now, to Chief Watts, I suggest you don't go in the parade tomorrow with your head down. I suggest you sneak out and you look at all them rocks. Then you go into Ross Siemens and you say, you did this rocks down there to say it was cleaning up the homeless, but in actuality, it was to benefit Rob Funk and pay him back for loading you and getting you in and help Henry Braun. This is what Henry did on Cooper's Farm when he snuck in to change the schedule. And this is what they were doing. Today I was around with all developers everywhere. They're outraged about this filthy cheating. They're outraged that the police department did this. They're outraged that we got investigators that are supposed to know this, and they don't know what they're doing. They're outraged that investigators went out undercover and threatened residents. They're outraged that they blocked the election. They're outraged at the manipulation of this police department. But they're outraged knowing that the first thing of Abbotsford for the Fisher Community Plan should have been its treatment center and not some filthy building. And if you look now, you look at the crime rate disappeared in Abbotsford when Bob Rich and Mike Scher fled here because it was Henry manipulating it to get the bigger police department to bodyguard this, to round Funk a diverse. Every developer deserves a fair playing ground. You don't get no special treatment because you're Henry's partner. And that is why the rocks are on Gladys. So right now, you can see the city told me, the women working there, they're fencing off Gladys Avenue and they're gonna bring PCL back to start digging and rushing because I haven't made no more videos on them rocks. Abbotsford taxpayers were increased for them rocks to be held in And they weren't there for the homeless. They were there for Ron Funk. So Ron Funk can benefit. And Ron Funk can get ahead in life where everybody else struggles. Ron Funk was going to say there's a shortage of houses in Abbotsford. There was no shortage of houses when you shut down the Augustine billionaire. You shut down the Augustine billionaire with the city councils that collaborated with Henry in his house. So you could take the Vaquero Ranch and get all his customers. You could see Ron Funk said to all his people that he did pre-sales, he's going to be a year late. I mean, going to be a year late. We're not on schedule. You know why he's a year late? He's scared working right now. He won't work the weekends. He won't push the crews or nothing because he's worried if I get it all up, I lose more in the assets if I just lose this. Abbotsford residents, we're being frauded. Abbotsford voters, we're being blocked. And Henry Brown, Rob Funk, we're benefit. But Abbotsford Police Department, we're no police department. They were just garbage, filthy men that kept using the uniform every day of how I can manipulate the uniform. Who can I get beside me? And you can see the distance. We haven't had a mayor take a picture with my police chief, beaver face. We haven't had any promos. We haven't seen nothing because the Abbotsford men that work there figure if we do damage control, we can save it. As a resident and as a politician and as a man of having family, nobody should be threatened. Nobody should be stalked by Abbotsford police undercover. Nobody should be harassed and everything for organized crime. We have to call it out. These men went in uniform, black uniform that suits the gang thing, and went in there and organized crime to do that for Henry Brown. And that is the facts. Now they need all other police departments and everybody they can through the back doors to do it. To Vicky Hopes and Ken, the Abbotsford newspaper who was trying to block it. This here is the truth, like Paul Harvey used to say. Now you know the rest of the story. They're on Funk in the verse. As Abbotsford's mayor, which I'm running for, I'm going to go after all of them assets and take them right back where they belong, into the Abbotsford taxpayers. It's in fact the Abbotsford police go around when they seize these little cars, and you can go look at them. Look at this. We seize this in the name of the gangs, the little silver and purple call. They're bragging everywhere. But look at it. When it comes to the real gangs and the real stuff, Abbotsford police can't seize it. That's why I'm telling you we need the RCMP, and we're going to get the RCMP, and we're going to go through forensic audits, and I don't need to hear Chief Watts. I'm leading for my community. I want the best for my community, and this is just a garbage shit show for long, big developers. Henry Brown got in his car, tried to end my life, and paid Mike Sir to cover it. Abbotsford police failed to come out and check on the well-being. They failed to go to the hospital. They failed to investigate witnesses because the only reason they failed at all is they were being paid off, and it was a big abusive company running wild on my citizens, and I wanted out of Abbotsford. That is why I'm on the world stage. I want guys like Watts that can't defend that company, can't come out and talk to witnesses out because he was taking bribes, and we need to settle it. And this is where Watts should be. So tomorrow at the parade, I want everybody who's going there to watch him with his head hanging down, and watch and see if the great 5 leaders of Abbotsford are with Chief Watts. I'm live. Sage, Ron Funk, and the verse.